Hello everybody and welcome to the Pies Nation podcast, where the pies are hot and the drinks are cold. Nicholas Sacco here, your host for another episode. This is episode 19 of season 7, or episode 192 if you are counting from the beginning. A day of frustration turned into a day of disappointment as the Pies succumbed to a second straight loss, this time to the Dockers by just 1 point at the MCG. Plenty of questions, plenty to discuss, but the best part is we're still on top. We dissect the game. We get some very emotional fans from our SpeakPie segment coming up later. We chat to some more positives throughout our VFL and VFLW reports, and we speak to our next guest, the crowd competition winner. And joining me in the studio today to discuss, well, it's probably going to be more of a serious episode than we've done throughout recent weeks, is Marcus Callahan and Jack Dugan. Boys, welcome. It's a shame that we have to have a pod like this, but as Fly said in his presser yesterday, if it's going to happen, rather it happen now.
Is the lid on?
Yeah. Oof, jeez.
Yeah.
Lucky we didn't take it off yet.
Family back on?
Yeah, family. Family. It's a minor blip on the radar in terms of pulling lids off. But yeah, a frustrating day, Nico, no doubt. It was funny. At no stage was I stressed about the result. I think until the last 30 seconds where the game was seemingly out of our hands, Marcus. But yeah, hopefully something that if it's going to happen, it's going to happen now and we can get over it and rectify it quickly.
But weren't stressed as in you thought we were going to win, or weren't stressed as in whatever happens?
Yeah, weren't stressed in terms of I thought we had played enough good footy on the day to get a result, and probably the examples that we've had over the last 2 years, certainly in those close ones. And it's not like we didn't have our opportunities either. I think having our opportunities, you thought we were going to get our chance at one stage to get back in front and ice the game, but not to be. The Dockers, they were pretty good. I've got to give them credit. I feel like sometimes in these type of games we sort of fall too quickly and look at us and look how terrible we were on the day and don't give the opposition enough credit. They were exceptional for a lot of parts of yesterday, although we weren't at our best. They were awesome too.
Yeah, well, I think the thing about this game for me is that they just made the most of their opportunities, and we'll dissect that, of course, because it was such a key stat as to what made this result the way it was. But yeah, it was certainly just so frustrating. I couldn't wrap my head around some of the things we were doing, some of the ways we were playing, and unfortunately for us, I've heard a lot of Collingwood supporters say that we got played like Collingwood have to other oppositions throughout recent years. So unfortunately for our sakes, we were on the other end of it. And look, I feel like there's a lot to discuss from it, and we're about to now. And we'll start, of course, with the part that caught our eyes. But yeah, in a way, rapt that it's happening now, and against a pretty good opposition. Jack, as you said, got to give kudos to Fremantle, who obviously had a lot to play for, a lot riding on their season, as we know, with how close things are in the top 8, which makes things even more concerning from my point of view, because as I said in the on the siren reaction yesterday, I feel like we're just about back in the pack now. So another factor to dissect, of course. But let's get into it. The part that caught our eyes, I'm sure, again, there were plenty to choose from, good or bad. But Marcus, let's kick it off with you.
I thought he made a huge impact on all 4 quarters of this game. Pie that caught my eye, Bo McCreary on return. Sorry if I've pinched yours, boys. But he was chomping at the bit to just absolutely roll whoever was in his way. And I think one thing that I've loved about Bo is that he's getting better at not giving away that free kick down the line when he just lays the arm in and unfortunately lets one go. His attack on the footy in the middle was exceptional. He set the tone. He was a big reason as to why we were, I think, winning clearance and gaining territory for periods throughout this game, and to come back and have 15 disposals, 15 tackles, it's quite the return, despite having that hammy injury, and we've sorely missed him, quite frankly, in terms of the results we've had go our way and not go our way. Whenever Bo's on the field, he just brings that bit of mongrel that's been missing in recent times. So really happy to see him playing more midfield minutes, Nico, and getting forward. Didn't get it on the end of any, but it's that defensive intent that we've missed at times without him in the side.
I think he had 12 centre bounce attendances from memory. I mean, we spoke about how well he did in the opening quarter, playing in the middle before he ended up having that hamstring injury that's seen him ruled out. I can't remember exactly which game it might have been. St Kilda, thank you, Jack. 5 clearances he ended up having as well, along with his 15 tackles, 7 of which were inside 50. So he was superb, and it was sad because you felt like if he was playing last week against Gold Coast with that same type of energy and effort, we'd probably win. But again, can't look at the what ifs. We've got to move on. But yeah, thought Bo was outstanding. Definitely top 2 or 3 of our better players on Sunday.
But a great example as well, Nico, of the position that we've been on, being so far ahead at the top of the ladder, being able to keep blokes on ice for as long as possible and get them 100% fit. You saw that with Bo yesterday. He was able just to come in, impact as usual, as Marcus said, definitely in our top 3 players on the day. So massive shout out to Bo, and fortunately for us, we're still a game clear on top of the ladder. So if we can keep winning this week against Richmond and then go into the Brisbane game, then we're going to be able to keep resting blokes and keep giving guys the full opportunity to rehabilitate themselves. The part that caught my eye, he was going to be it, Nico. So he was my positive, but I'm going to go a bit more of a negative one. It's Dan McStay. Now, yesterday we did a lot of kicking to Fremantle's backline, which was an issue and something that we'll get to a little bit later. But on a day that we didn't have Tim Membry, I would have really liked to see a lot more presence from Dan. Checkers was very busy and popped up a lot on the day, but I felt like just a big bustling tall forward that he is should have sort of demanded the footy a bit more. And then when he was getting the footy, just getting himself in better positions to mark it. There was far too much of this Travis Cloak style one-on-one down the line, which when Freo are playing that third man up sort of in the back line, that just falls into their hands completely. So needed a bit of a lift from him coming into the Tigers game this week. And not only did we miss Membry, but yeah, I felt like there was a missed opportunity for him to not step up and really take a hold of that game and that forward line.
3 marks, 1 tackle, and no goals in 2 straight weeks now for Dan McStay. And that was after we lauded him for a really solid performance against the Blues only a fortnight ago. Played quite a bit in the defensive 50. As we know, our stocks there were pretty depleted. So it was probably foreshadowed with the way that he was training on the Thursday, seeing him play a bit at full back, but yeah, just didn't really have the impact. And I think you're spot on, Jack, with no Tim Membry in the side. His presence could have very much been felt yesterday.
I think Dan McStay, over the course of his career at the Lions and the Pies, has 1 or 2 good weeks and then unfortunately goes missing for a few and then comes back and has a good hit out and we get excited and then falls off the wheel again. Yesterday was a tough one for him. It would have been very confusing playing that sort of wingman role at times, as was perhaps forecast, given we were lacking a lot of tall defensive personnel yesterday, fellas. But at the end of the day, you're right, Jack, about those opportunities that Dan had to try and outmuscle an opponent or get up on the wing and provide an option. He just wasn't at the source enough of the time. And if he's not marking it, we love it when he's halving it, as with any good big man in the comp. So he would be acutely aware that he's had 2 very lacklustre weeks. But I really do feel like if a Jeremy Howe is playing in this game or a Tim Membry, it really changes the shape of Dan McStay's role. And with Mason Cox playing too, it probably meant he played less ruck time. And I prefer Dan McStay getting up and being that backup ruck option because it keeps him in the game. When he goes cold, he goes real cold. So an anomaly, I think, in terms of the type of role that he had to play, but we'll be expecting more from him in the coming weeks, no doubt.
Yeah, we'll be looking at that ruck situation. You felt like we always had to play 2 genuine rucks coming up against Darcy and Jackson, but it felt like that Meso didn't quite live up to what we were expecting. But speaking of rucks, Darcy Cameron was absolutely superb. He's the pie that caught my eye for this week, and he has been many times throughout the year, and for good reason. When we did need some taller stocks down back and we needed somebody to stand up, I still felt that DC was the man that delivered. He had 32 hit-outs, which was the most on the ground, 8 intercepts, 3 contested marks, 8 marks in total. Definitely felt like without him that we were going to leak a lot more goals than we did. As disappointing as it was to see them score so easily, I did feel like if Darcy Cameron was in a situation in our defensive half where he was competing, he was either going to win with a contested mark himself or at least half the contest to allow our smalls to get after it. And I just think he's so valuable for that reason. And that reason alone, Fly highlighted it in his press conference yesterday, talking about the immense effort he had. But I just feel like because he's got that part to his game, it just makes Darcy Cameron such a more influential player, not just with his ability in the ruck and getting the football, of course. And we know that at times he can go up forward and kick goals when required. But we really needed him to play a role with our intercept game lacking yesterday. And I felt like he did everything he could to ensure that the Pies stayed in the game.
No question. And there's absolutely no doubt the directive was, if there's a game this year that we need you to be right at that exit kick from the defensive Fremantle 50, Dust, we need you there to try and hold up, and also playing behind the ball. It was apparent that he was not only doing it in the middle, Nico, but also behind the ball. So I think that it's fantastic that he brings that week in, week out, and we got that from him yesterday. It just wasn't quite enough. We just didn't quite have that system that we're used to seeing, and the personnel. So take nothing away from his efforts, but I think there were some other factors which we'll dig into, which explain why we unfortunately went down.
So let's start with the back six then. Let's get that out of the way, because there's been a lot of talk about how we should have played it, how we shouldn't have played it. The reality for me was, and I think, again, I said this yesterday, we would have been naive to think that we weren't going to leak goals yesterday. Because we know how strong Fremantle have been over the last 4 or 5 weeks, and they've got plenty of attacking options, as proven yesterday. But with no Jeremy Howe, no Dan Houston, and no Billy Frampton, it does open a lot of holes up in that back line, and we had to make do with what we did, and I felt like the selection was right on the Thursday night, seeing Charlie Dean get another crack, and seeing the way we were trying to adjust some things. Nick Dacos moved to half back, trying to alleviate some of that pressure on the others to run and carry the football. I think maybe what surprised a lot of Pie supporters is that we still maintained a very attacking style in that back line, where we saw Darcy Moore play quite a bit outside defensive 50 to try and impact the ball before it got over the back, and that allowed Fremantle to score quite a number of goals. I don't feel like that was a terrible part of our game, because we're not going away from what we've known and how we've played throughout the entire season. The problem was it was just happening too many times where that ball was going at the back, and it led to pretty much certain Fremantle goals as a result, and that was always a risk we were willing to take. When you've got Jeremy Howe or Billy Frampton back there, you're a bit more stable knowing that, okay, if it does get out the back, outside our defensive 50, we've still got a player or two that can impact either one-on-one or get the ball to ground and create that rebound 50. Unfortunately, it resulted in Oleg Markov, Isaac Quainer, Charlie Dean, all having one-on-ones with some of these really tall Fremantle stocks up forward, either losing those 50-50 contests or not even getting it to them, because players were streaming into goal 25, 30 metres out directly in front, allowing Fremantle to hit the scoreboard. So there were a lot of concerns to come out of it. Like I said, I don't think we should have expected much less in terms of us conceding a bigger score than we normally have because of the makeup of our back line. But do you boys feel like it could have been played a little bit better?
I actually think that we got the memory call wrong for this game.
I mean, purely from a backline selection point of view rather than a
just
forward.
That line.
Yes. Sorry,
yeah.
I should have clarified. Yep.
Yeah, because we were talking about on the preview pod that memory has played a similar role to what McStay ended up doing, which is that extra man in defence. At the Saints, Tim Memory played that role when St Kilda were already down by 10 goals most weeks. But I feel like, yeah, Nico, you're right. And it was not only the defensive unit in terms of, we've seen it before, unfortunately, when Charlie Dean and Markov have come in, the ball just gets over and there's like, okay, there's no other defenders between the goal face and 30, 40 metres out. That's always a problem if you don't have that backline stopper. But I was just as disappointed in the second half, in particular with the defensive half transition. I didn't feel like our wings and our mids were being accountable enough as the ball moved. And as soon as Freo got that directive at three-quarter time to go play on as quickly as possible, go middle, which is literally the brand of footy we've seen as Collingwood supporters in 2022 and 2023 lead to many famous come-behind wins, that creates bigger problems for defenders once it gets down there, Jack.
Could not agree more. We said it with me and my friend Axel Nico yesterday afternoon. That was where we were. I felt like, actually, considering the lack of personnel in the back six, that they did extremely well at least getting to a lot of contests. I know Foss had an absolute day out, probably career best game.
Tickets.
Until now. Absolutely. But you know, I felt like, you know, any time the ball went in there, and it was going in there very easily by virtue of the fact that our team defence was lacklustre and
up the ground.
Essentially just non-existent at sometimes. It felt like they were just letting blokes run past and going, okay, the next bloke will deal with that, and the next bloke was doing that, and then all of a sudden they're having a shot from 15 metres out. That despite that quick, free-flowing movement that, you know, Braden Maynard, Darcy Moore, Charlie Dean, to a certain extent, they could all probably hold their head up pretty high. Isaac Quainer is in that conversation as well. And it's always going to be tough for blokes like Oleg Markov and who's the other one that Charlie Dean, just to get used to not only the speed of the game but to get used to the AFL system, which I'm sure is somewhat similar to the Magoos, but it's a massive step up especially when you factor in that speed. So I thought all things considered, the back six as a unit were okay, but as Marcus said, it was a little bit of a team defence issue, I thought, yesterday.
So at three-quarter time, the Dockers had scored 3 goals, 2 from their defensive 50. Now, Collingwood had ranked number 1 in the competition from scores from that source. Donuts. We did not score a single point up until three-quarter time from that source of the ground. So what does that tell you?
Which is a problem, I think, in other games where we've been a little bit off as well, Nico. I think you mentioned that at three-quarter time against Queen's Birthday when we were sitting with each other, and potentially there was a similar stat floating around that against the Suns as well, but that was a long time ago, and there might have been a few beers had by three-quarter time that night. But anyway, yeah, it might have been a bit of a trend in our game that when we're not going well, that's one of the red flags.
I think it also tells you that Jeremy Howe wasn't playing, because he's one of our better defenders at picking the right option at the right time and having so much experience about when knowing to hit the sideways kick because we don't have players up the field ready to take a mark down the line, or knowing what the game needs and going corridor and taking a bit of a risk. So he, to me, is just pivotal. Getting him right is almost as important as having someone like a Nick Dacos or a Jordan De Goey ready to go, because he just firms us up, and we didn't have much of that on show from the defence yesterday.
So knowing all of these factors, can I get a quick summary on how you felt Darcy Moore played yesterday? We know that one-on-one he's not great. Again, I don't think that should come as much of a surprise to Collingwood fans. The problem was he was just getting beaten time and time again in that scenario, where it became a frustration because that's the way Fremantle were scoring their goals. Again, outside of the defensive 50, I thought he was okay. Was able to impact the contest at times and created some chains going forward occasionally. But I feel like we've been a little bit harsh on Darcy, considering he's had to hold up quite a bit of that defence yesterday.
I just think it was just a shocking matchup for us. Their tall forwards and our lack of tall defenders. I actually disagree, Nick. I reckon Darcy Moore's had some good battles, like against Curnow. He was very good, and he isn't a great one-on-one defender, but when he's got Frampton and Howe around him, I feel like he can take risks that he couldn't take yesterday. So when you've got that cover, I think mentally it's like, okay, I can perhaps play my natural game, but with that lack of experience there, it probably changed the shape of it.
So why not, as we've seen him previously do, Jack, change his style of play to not give his opponent 4 or 5 metres of a head
start.
Playing
from behind and all the rest of it.
100%. So you know you don't have that personnel around you. You've got a pretty young, inexperienced defence in terms of the taller players around. So why has he not then assessed that, again, which he has done previously, to change his game style and not take those risks?
I don't even know if that's a Darcy Moore individual thing, Nico. I think that could be a coaching directive towards the whole team, because anytime you sort of hear Craig and Craig talk about the way we want to play just watch the way we want to play, we want to be attacking, we want to be sort of on the front foot. We don't want to be the team just halving contests and killing games. We want to play quickly, play with excitement. So I think the way that Darcy Moore plays his footy is just exemplary of the way that Collingwood wants to play their footy, and I don't think that changes for everyone. Now, mind you, we didn't get beaten by 5 goals yesterday. We've got to remember that, and we got beaten by a side that on their day were much hungrier than us, much cleaner than us, and really much better than us. So it's not alarm bells fully yet in terms of, well, our game style needs to go in the bin and we need to change things. And I think that's probably, going back to the individual thing from Darcy Moore, that's probably where his mindset is, at least as his own player. If not, that's probably the directive that I would say he's getting from the coaching staff.
And unfortunately, I'm just trying to think of as a defensive coach, even though I'm obviously not one, but with the lack of tall stocks back there, you often want a tall defender close to the goal line, because if a kick comes and it's close, like someone who can spoil, who's tall, is important. So I do wonder if that's why Darcy Moore was playing from behind. But after Voss had kicked, I hate Patrick Voss. After Voss had kicked 3 in the first quarter, the monkey's on the back for Darcy Moore. And it was just strange to me that we didn't take Maynard across to Voss, because they've both kind of got that, who's bigger attitude about them. And I don't know if you saw off the ball, but Bruzzy was getting right into Voss.
Yeah, he was.
Even after there was a score kicked. So I thought that obviously didn't stop Voss from having impact on the game, because his confidence would have been sky high at half time. He's done a number on a premiership captain, All-Australian in Darcy Moore. So that was disappointing to me that rotation didn't happen earlier. I know you want to show the faith with your captain and back them in and all the rest of it, but how many times have we seen in 2023 in particular our defensive unit just rotating, almost cycling through different forwards, and that's part of a system defence. But yesterday, due to lack of personnel, we didn't have that much flexibility.
Yeah, and it also, so personnel, as Marcus just highlighted there, Nico, I was just about to bring that up. I think when you have Jeremy Howe and Billy Frampton there, that looks so much different, because not only can they rotate, you can also say to someone like a Billy Frampton, stay on him the whole day, don't worry about getting the ball. But you can't say that to a Darcy Moore, because you know how prolific he is going the other way. So personnel is 100% an issue. And also, again, we highlighted it before, team defence. What happens when the ball's coming in there quickly, efficiency, and big blokes like Voss seem to be marking everything? Everyone goes, oh, Darcy Moore, Isaac Quainer, Jeremy Howe when they're playing, what are they doing, and stuff like that. But it's on a lot of the times it's not actually their fault, because no one could stop some of those entries that were coming in.
And I mean, to think about like a guy like Shai Bolton, who's so dangerous, and I think Q played on him, maybe Dacos as well, but that leading lane that Voss had too often throughout the match, you could have landed a plane. There was that much space available through the centre, like forward corridor. So that was just another thing I think Freo got right. They really created space in the forward line, and we choked it up and kept kicking it to them, as Jack highlighted.
It's amazing what happens when you lead at the footy, Nico. You keep giving it, it gets presented, and you get a shot on goal. I know Billy's the only one, and he's the shortest bloke in our forward line, bar shooter. But like, we'll get there later, I'm sure. But fuck,
no, keep going.
That was a frustrating thing for me and my mate Axel on Sunday. We're sitting watching Freo Voss steam out of the goal square basically, and then double back if he didn't get it, and steam back out again. Again, it's something that Membry offers us when he's in the side. Where was that? Where was that the whole game? I'm yelling now, but where was that? Jamie Elliott is one of the smallest blokes in this forward line, and he's the only one that does it. The rest of them want it sat on their head, and they want to try and be Hulk Hogan and wrestle them out the way. It's not good. It doesn't work all the time. Change it up. Lead at the footy.
It's a fantastic segue, because the personnel discussion I don't want to finish just yet, but what I do want to jump to is something we do have control in, and that's the connection between the midfield and the forward line. Dare I say, we've brought this back to 2020, 2021 levels, where there was just nobody moving inside forward 50. I didn't think we were going to have to bring this discussion up this year. Unfortunately, we are going to have to, because it was deplorable what we saw
week as well, didn't
on
we?
Sunday. No, but it was 10 times worse.
It was
10 times worse.
Couldn't even get our hands on
yesterday.
The
I think at one point we had 1 or 2 marks inside 50 up into three-quarter time, despite constant inside 50s. I think we ended up with 23 more inside 50s for the match, and we just weren't able to get our pills on the footy, our footy on the pill. One or the other, our hands on the footy. You know what I'm saying? I'm all over it today, as you can tell. Yeah, really, really just upsetting that connection wasn't there. And even for Paddy Lipinski, who's number one in the comp for hitting those inside 50 entries, you could actually tell they were trying to get it to him in that centre corridor or around the outskirts of the 50. Even Lipinski, unfortunately, just some of his kicks were going just over the head or just below some of those forwards, and it just caused that chaos ball and a lot of stoppages. And then when we get to that point, we just lose those clearances in those areas. But another big reason why we were losing. We relied so much on efficiency over the first 3 months of the year. You could argue now that it's seen us lose back-to-back games.
But when you don't move, Nico, you have to rely on these perfect kicks from a Paddy Lipinski to get shots on goal. And when that's not quite happening, this is the outcome, and it's what we're left with. We're sitting here going 1 point losers, going like this is one big glaring frustrating thing that we have got half right, even not even fully right, where we were playing like Freo and sort of seemingly hitting everything that was coming towards us up and scoring from it. But if we go to, that's one of those things. If we just get that sort of 25 to 30% better, we win this game tenfold. And it's so frustrating. I can't understand it, because it just move. It gets to 60 metres out from goal, and I don't think it's the ball carrier's fault at all. I don't know what the directive is, but it's as if everyone's just sort of waiting for.
So whose fault is that?
But I don't know. So maybe that's the way we want to play. Maybe that we want to play that sort of not long down the line, but that high kick that someone sort of floats in late or out muscles their opponent, which is fine. But then what's your plan B when it doesn't get marked or if the ball spills to ground? Because the other thing that happens in these situations, and Freo killed it yesterday with this, as soon as the ball wasn't being marked by a Voss or a Darcy or someone like that, or a Jackson.
Oh, everywhere.
They were everywhere.
Everywhere.
Now, the problem with standing still and doing nothing is that that's fine if you want to have the long high ball. Get to the front of the ball or get to somewhere where you think the ball might land, because at the moment what was happening yesterday is we'd put it on the head of a Brody Myercheck and going checkers, good luck, all the best with that one. Freo swarm around it, get numbers to the footy, and if they're not marking it, as soon as the ball hits the deck, they've got it and they're away.
Luke Ryan and Geordie Clark must have thought it was their birthdays.
Mm.
Because the amount of times they were getting the footy from that exact reason, absolutely right. The worst part, again, is when we did get opportunities on goal, we weren't converting them. 2 goals, 3 for Brody Myercheck. I think Jamie Elliott finished 2-2. Mason Cox, simple set shot, missed. I mean, you can talk about all day the lack of movement inside forward 50. We still had enough opportunities to win the game off our own boot, and we failed again.
No question. And again, getting to the meat on the bone in this game, we're up 20-something points with about 15 minutes to go. And then I think between checkers, he almost kicked that miraculous snap, which hit the post. Jamie Elliott,
twice.
Mr. Iceman, missing set shots that we've seen him kick from the boundary before. It was just, we genuinely put ourselves in a position where we could win this game. Like, we were up for long enough in that second half to see it come home. But Freo made it a finals-like atmosphere in that last quarter, and to their credit, they went corridor, they took risks. We did not take ours, and then I think the confidence that we'd grown throughout that match unravelled very, very quickly, unfortunately. So we can talk about personnel problems, and I think that in the coming weeks we'll get guys back and things will start to look a bit better from the back half to the forward half. But we shouldn't forget that we actually did put ourselves in a position to win this game.
Yes, exactly right. And I said it last night, I think 9 times out of 10, we do go on and win that game. It just was not to be. Last point I want to make is on personnel again before we do move on. What are your thoughts on us continuing this management style that we have with our playing group at the moment? We've made 12 changes in the last 3 weeks. 7 of those have been unforced changes. We've seen veterans managed, we've seen role players managed, we've seen all types of different scenarios about what we've been doing in terms of the makeup of our team. Rightly or wrongly, that's what I want to get from you boys, because it feels like from some that we're being a bit too arrogant, but others feel like we need to trust the system, and there's a reason, and a good reason, why those players are being managed as we head towards the back end of the year.
It's unique having the oldest list ever. Is that the case this season? We've got the oldest list of all time. So through the early parts of this season when it looked like, oh, geez, we might actually be the real deal, once again, I think that we're in a luxurious position where we could take that risk. It's now probably getting to that threshold where it's like, okay, guys have had rest. Yes, there's been some injuries and we've had to fill some positions and it's been a bit makeshift over the last fortnight. But when does it get to a point where, particularly for the last 4 weeks of the season, we say continuity, cohesion and chemistry are absolutely paramount. Yeah. So we know guys like Bobby Hill, Jordan De Goey have missed a lot of footy this season for various reasons, and there's a few others that will return, Billy Frampton, Jeremy Howe and the like. But I just can't underscore how important it is to, while we might have had that ability, Nico, to manage guys, give them a week off, freshen up and all the rest of it, you need guys playing footy together week on week between, I think, now and the end of the season to really know where we stand. And we've been able to rest guys luxuriously, as I say, but Jacko, can we continue with this sort of pick and choose attitude? Is it getting a bit cute?
There's a fine line, isn't there? There's a fine line between sort of that sort of arrogance piece that you both speak of and sticking with the system. We saw Geelong a couple of years ago, they stuck with the system, it worked out in the end, and hindsight's a wonderful thing, especially when you go on and win a flag by 80 odd points or whatever they did that day. But to Marcus's point about personality and continuity, again, massive example yesterday of how you take 2 people out of that side, just two people out of that side, and how different everything looks, and how
2 being
Jeremy Howe and Tim Embry, I would say, and
Houston,
and Dan Houston, and then you can even argue that we haven't probably looked as solid down there without Billy Frampton in the side either, being able to play that lockdown role. But also remember, now if the club does go down this line of continue to rest players, especially the older boys, we kind of feel like we've just got to trust the process, because coming off losses, it always feels like, oh no, alarm bells, how are we going to go here? But let's not forget, Pendles has made the sub after that round 0, 60-point loss to the Giants. Pendles has made the sub and everyone's going, what is going on? We're going to win that game by 90 points. Again, much like the Geelong piece, hindsight's a wonderful thing, so it's a sort of wait and see type prospect, but I think it's more important as we sort of get to the last 3-4 weeks of the season, just to make sure that we're all in sync, that the same personnel are out there week on, week off, and you can manage loads. If you want to go take it, it doesn't have to be as extreme as resting blokes. I'm a big fan of, especially when someone like a Jordan De Goey comes back. We saw it in the final series in 23 with Nick when he was coming off injury. It's just a non-negotiable. We all want you out there because you're one of the best players in the comp, but we also want to manage your workload and work rate. So you can just pull them off for 10-15 minutes of a quarter. I know that sounds crazy saying that out loud, but we could be looking like September. We could be using blokes like Jordan De Goey and Bobby Hill in sort of 10-minute bursts.
No, you summed it up well. I think that fine line is very much true, and maybe it's a different conversation we're having if we do win yesterday, and maybe it's not such of a focal point, but I just know that the Kane corners of the world will make it a big talking point for them throughout the rest of the week. So I would love to get the thoughts of people I actually care about. All right, moving on to our SpeakPie. There were plenty of these over the week. I think the most we've just about had, Marcus, after a game.
Votes?
Yeah, one of them mentions it, so I want to wait till we play that, and then I'm going to get your thoughts, because we do have to touch on Nick with his career-breaking disposal count, but I want to get the cans on.
Was it? Yeah, really?
Yep, he had 43 touches. So this is SpeakPie. Like I said, we got an enormous amount after the game yesterday, and a good 40-odd, and as much as I would have loved to play each and every one of them, I've tried to cut it down as best as I possibly can. So there's about 11 or 12 here that we're going to run through. A couple of new ones as well that have come in, so thank you, everybody that does send everything through. Nothing from Colin. He's just missed the cut, unfortunately. We haven't got anything from him. Maybe the short turnaround has probably put him back a bit. So
he hasn't.
We won't hear from Colin today.
I hope everything's okay.
Yes, hopefully. But I'm sure we'll get to him at some point soon. But let's get underway. We're going to start with Brendan, who was probably seconds after we put the link out, straight into it on the SpeakPie. So let's kick it off with him. Thank you very much.
Yeah, boys. Just turns out they had everything to play for. Mason Cox, get out. Should never have been in there. Obviously, half of our backline's out, which hurt. Mason Cox, fuck me, get off.
I feel like he's still such a beat up boy for a lot of Collingwood fans.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm sitting there in the last quarter yesterday. I know he didn't have a great game up to this point, but how nice would it have been, considering that Dan McStay hadn't got near a mark all day, that to have a 7-foot bloke with goggles on to kick two. We did it in the Adelaide game as well, which fortunately we got over the line in that one. But you get up 27 points or 20 points in the last quarter or whatever it was, and you can have an outlet. And again, I know he hasn't marked much for the day, neither had Dan McStay, but he's an option.
But just equalise some contests. Doesn't have to go and kick goals necessarily.
A little back heel in the first quarter. I don't know if you boys saw that. That was just a little bit of showtime for Mason Hollywood Cox. That's all he did. Just
on that, just quickly, shout out to Hoskin Elliott. I think he's a perfect sub. I think he's a perfect sub player. You can put him anywhere you want, and he had an immediate impact.
Get hyphenated is what I say. He was absolutely fantastic as soon as he come on. I called him, I was like, where's Hoskin? And then he marked
Bang,
it and then
straight away. This is Josie. I think we need to give a bit of a language warning for this one too, so have a listen.
What kind of fucking umpiring was it? I swear to God, the umpires have a KPI where they just need to fucking get everyone even free kicks. Got to go fucking Collingwood free kick, Freo free kick, just bullshit umpiring, stupid calls. How many times did they have to have the friggin' ball in their hand and it was not getting called ball? There was 10 fucking tackles that I counted where they actually had the ball and they were tackled. Just fucking pathetic. Honestly, it just makes me want to fucking turn off the fucking telly. I don't want to hear the commentators. I don't want to see the fucking umpires. They need to be friggin' sacked. Honestly, what are they doing? What is the AFL doing to regulate this shit? Fuck's sake. Anyway, go Pies. Fucking 2 losses isn't bad. Hopefully this pushes us into September with a really good mindset, but fuck me, 1 point.
Tell us how you really feel, Josie. She makes an interesting point. We spoke a little bit off air, Nico, about how we weren't going to blame the umpires. And I think, I've said this before, it's such a difficult game to officiate. So you can't really sort of blame losses on them. The one right at the end was a head scratcher, but it's by no means the reason why we lost the game. That one against Shy
the one against Cruz.
Shy Bolton. It was
the one that gave Bolton the shot on goal.
Yeah.
To kick the point.
I think there's an argument for a free kick to be made, much like the Steele one. I think there's an argument for a free kick to be made there, but the free kick that was actually paid in the moment wasn't like justified. I didn't think like that one where Steele marks it, and then he's being called a block despite losing no eyes for the footy and essentially making no contact with the defender with his arms at all, and then still being pinged with it. That was an interesting one. But again, look, I think this where everyone sort of, again, much like when the ball goes in quickly to the back line, everyone blames the defenders. Sometimes when you don't get a few decisions, everyone blames the umpires. But I don't think it's the case this week.
But Josie does have a point. So I reckon there was like... I reckon the free kick count at three-quarter time was like 23-16, and umpires, I reckon, have a remit to avoid scrutiny by trying to level it up. So I actually think that there was.
Do you think that's genuine?
Not 100%. Can you imagine if the free kick count was there's 2 out of whack week to week? Just how much the umpires are already. I mean, the AFL is obviously like. The umpires are the scapegoat for a lot of things that are wrong with the way the game's officiated, and it's been worse this year than. Yeah, I don't know. Ever has been, with more rules coming in and no one knows what holding the ball is and rah. But coming back to the Steele one, yeah, he protected the space, maybe got him a little bit high, but that's not what it was called a free kick for. Patrick Voss on Darcy Moore, like 2 minutes later, literally just floored him, and Jai Amos took a mark, and that was not, you could just do that, no worries, 2 minutes later. So it was exactly right. Yeah. And I think, as I was saying, even the one where Checkers tackled Luke Jackson from behind, like, he hadn't played on. You can motion. Checkers came from behind. He wasn't on the mark, so he's in the protected area. So I'm saying it both ways.
Yeah.
But Josie isn't.
But also, Nico, to this point, we'll move on quickly, but not that it's the same, but I know when I was reffing basketball, and maybe Luke, you'd be the good person to ask about this, but certainly when we were getting coached on games, if at half time there was a lot that you'd missed or a lot that you'd missed and they were for one team only, and that's what you were getting coached about, whether they actually have a conversation about, all right, Collingwood's had 20 free kicks, Freo's only had 13.
Guaranteed.
I don't know if those are the words that they use, but they probably would have something like that. But even if they're watching vision and all of the free kicks are missed Fremantle free kicks, I know personally, sort of subconsciously, when you go back out there as an official, you're looking more for when the opposition is doing that to the team that's had the rub of the green for the first half. So that could be a bit of an interesting one to note if they were getting coached.
All right, I like it.
Happens, mate.
Good perspective. Good perspective. Let's move on. We'll go to Jordan. Thank you.
Boy, oh boy. Feeling some things at the moment. Credit to Freo. They were just annoyingly good. I felt like we were the better team for the majority of the game, as the scoreline did suggest, and thought we should be leading by some more. Kicking inside 50, usually we're somewhat alright and being very good at converting inside 50s to scores, and we just weren't that tonight. So their defence held up very well. Ours just looked very, very depleted. No Reef McInnes, Howe or Frampton. So against their tools, as we saw with Voss, kicking a bag and then some, that hurt to watch. But we will be back. I don't think anyone predicted us to lose that game, and the games against Brizzy and Adelaide look even more important. Potentially see us get knocked off first and then play an away final, which would be pretty big come September. But I think we'll be right. We've still got some big names out. I don't like using injuries and especially umpiring as a cop-out, but they were slightly a factor. It was far from our best, and I think we'll still be able to get there, so hopefully we can. Love the podcast, guys. Go Pies.
And in brackets, he's put in his name, I Mr. Goey. So, yes, hopefully he's back soon. This one's from Ian, and I like this. Have a good listen.
Hey, boys. Ian here. Hey, after a game we lose, everybody bagging every player. We've lost 2 games in a row, still top 4, still top. Finishing top 2 is all good. Don't be like Carlton, mate. Love the players, not hate them. It's a disgrace the people that are saying this person are all shit.
Yep.
That's crap. Be better than that. We've had a good few years. All of a sudden, a couple of losses, and everybody wants to hate everybody on the team. Lipinski this, fucking Crisp that. They're all crap. Bullshit. Still 2 points clear. Glitch now is better than a glitch in September. Move on. Richmond this week. Then it gets tough. You want to play tough footy to finish the year. Finish top 2. Get 2 home finals. See where we go from there. Stop hating on every player, people. It's a disgrace that you bag out your own team after 2 losses in the last 3 years that we've had. It's a disgrace. Have a good day, boys.
Bit of perspective.
Yeah, I was straight down the line, and it's on the money, and
It's well said, Nico. I mean, like
it's in perspective.
losses. You know, they hurt, and when they're few and far between, like they have been this year, I'm guilty of it as well. We can lose our minds a little bit. So important to have a little bit of perspective. I take us back to that Geelong game when it was still earlier in the season. We were still sort of figuring out how good we were. I remember saying to Luke, "Oh no, like when's our next win going to come from? We've lost this one." But the reality of it is that we lost the game by a point, or we lost the game by under a goal that day as well. And there was still plenty of positives, and just it's the same trends in this game. Like we're just probably lacking a little bit in the defensive standpoint across the board, and then not efficient going forward.
Yep, spot on. I like it. This is Jack. Not you, but sounds a bit like you.
Hey lads, how are ya? I'm just sitting here after the game. I'm cooking a nice meal for my household. Spaghetti bolognese, everyone's favourite. I know it's my favourite. I've been trying new breathing exercises, and I think they're starting to work. Big breaths in and big breaths out. I know you guys might be halfway through a pod right now. Talk your feelings, talk about how the game went. And this one's for the parents out there, block your kids' ears, but what the fuck did I just watch? Now, I'm trying not to get too upset about it. We're still on top. Haven't seen my team won in 2 weeks, and I'm starting to go a bit insane. It is what it is. Just going to keep cooking this meal and using my breathing tactics. I might be going insane, but I'm going to stay calm and put $500 on whoever the fuck plays us next. See you, boys.
Okay. Jack's just in a mood.
Deep breath in.
He's
And out. That's fantastic.
All right, let's keep moving because there's so many to get through. But here's Jake Platt. Thank you.
Yeah, good day, boys. Really frustrated after that one. That's 2 weeks in a row now that we have let games that we should have and normally would have won slip, especially this one this afternoon. This is a really bad loss from the lead we had. Got quite a few concerns now in the back half of the year. So that 10-point lead we had at the top of the ladder is now evaporated with some real tough games to come. The sides that are slightly below us look incredibly powerful, like Adelaide, Geelong, Hawthorn. They're able to put sides to the sword, and I still think even at our best, we ebb and flow too much through games. We don't put sides away. The rest policy, I think, is a bit of a concern. I think we really can't afford to be resting players now. We've really got to try and win as many games as possible because that top 4 position is no longer secure. It's the way they played this afternoon. It's a real concern, I think, moving forward as to whether we can compete with those few sides under us at the business end. So I really hope we can, but only time will tell, boys. Thank you.
Okay. looking ahead. I think we do always stand up to those bigger games regardless. So I'm actually looking forward to playing those trio of clubs that we've got after the Richmond game.
It just means now, Nico, you just like that. That's the frustrating part about dropping yesterday's game is that when we play Hawthorn, Brisbane and Adelaide over there as well. So those are the big three for mine going into the back half of the year that you would have been not happy. And anyone who thought we were going to hold on to this 10-point top of the table lead was just, I think, maybe living in dreamland a little bit. As good as footy as we were playing, we were going to drop games at some stage. Hence the frustration of yesterday's loss because we thought they'd be coming against an Adelaide over there or against a Hawthorn looking to bounce back against, or even Brisbane indeed, that conversation, are looking to bounce back on the games that we've already played them this year. So, yeah, look, that's the concerning part. But, look, I think, as you just said, mate, I think any time we've been presented with a big game and a big opportunity, we haven't been a club, certainly since I've been following along closely, that wilts away.
Yeah, we don't shy away from it.
So it's almost like we're looking forward to something like that to get ourselves up for it.
Yeah, 100%. And let's hope that's the case. A few more to wrap up. John from Druin's back, so thank you, John.
G'day, guys. It's John from Druin here. Yeah, I know we're all disappointed with the result, but when you're 22 points up going into that last quarter, I really thought that we would hang on, but Freo did a Collingwood on us, so good on to them. Plenty of I suppose, Nick Dacos, him or Sarong's probably going to get the 3 votes for Brownlow. Darcy Cameron, how has he not been called out about all the Australian contention? And look, from there, Charlie Dean, he's going to take a little bit of time, I think. Probably a little bit young, and we were definitely missing Howe and Houston. Up forward, Membray and Hill, they come back into the side, and they confirmed today that Jordan De Goey is coming back next week. He'll probably come back through the 2. So, hey, look, don't drop your heads. We move on to Richmond next week, and still on top. Go Pies.
Dacos or Sarong with the 3, Marcus?
I think you'll get the 3.
Yeah?
Voss?
Hey?
Voss?
Who?
Do you give it tickets? Do you give it to him?
No, definitely not. I reckon despite losing, it'll be one of those ones on Brownlow night where it'll be like 1 to Sarong, 2 to Voss, and then 3 in Dacos.
Wow,
so
okay.
24
so
votes for the year.
25?
24.
24.
Yeah.
It's looking good. It's looking good. That's
They
what we
do it,
like.
I swear.
Here's Nate. He's a new one. Thank you, Nate.
Pies Nation, boys. How are we? Good game today. Bo McCreary was amazing. So good to have him back. Him and Shooters for pressure is unbelievable. I thought we had control of the game mostly, but we lacked a key defender, I guess. Missing Howe and those other boys out, Frampton and Houston's been a big loss. But I actually thought Charlie Dean was okay for Charlie Dean, even though he's a bit of a liability. No need to panic, I wouldn't think. We will get back on track. It's good to have, like Fly said, have these losses now and figure these things out. But no time to panic. Let's get back onto the train, boys.
Charlie Dean. 11 touches, 1 kick, no marks. Part of that very unfortunate passage in the very end where Pendlebury did him absolutely no favours. Oh, that was such a bugbear. I love Pendles. Why is he not getting that inside 50 when we only need a point to be in front? Why is he handballing it to the very end? So Pendlebury has it in the middle. Instead of going inside 50, he handballs to Charlie Dean in the middle of the MCG, has a turning circle of a semi-trailer, gets caught, Fremantle will go the other way, and then they can take some time off the clock and have a shot for goal. Not Charlie's fault. I was just disappointed with Pendles there not having the game awareness to go forward. Beside the point, how do we think Charlie Dean went yesterday?
Well, I was confused because I reckon Pendles got caught by Murphy Reid holding the ball, and then I think, I might be wrong here, that was the one where Freo scored. I can't remember who kicked it, but the ball literally went over a diving Charlie Dean's body. Like,
Is that what I'm thinking of then?
No, I reckon they're two different.
Yeah, two different ones.
No, they are.
Last term, but yeah, again, Charlie Dean, Mason Cox, so easy to go after. Was it Ian who said stop bagging out the players? Yeah, I think that's a really valid point because Charlie Dean with maybe Howie, Moore, Bruzzy around him. But yesterday it was just so difficult.
That one on the line, Nico, where it like goes over the top. It looks. I know we're from where we would have been sitting yesterday.
It did look
an elite defender gets a hand on that ball.
Exactly. Just to someone, probably even just a footballer that's just a little bit more confident in their game. There's no reason, I don't even reckon, to dive after it in the way that he did.
Maxwell would have just...
Yeah, he made a career out of doing that. But and then Pez, even like Pez was right there as well.
Yep.
But that it just, that's sometimes the way footy works.
Yep.
We were that far away. And then in the grand scheme of things, we're a point. Like it's when they're kicking goals like that and we lose 5 points, just like, oh well, not our day.
No, 2 more to finish. Trivers, you sent one in.
Trent Rivers.
I don't know. We're going to find out.
These are going pretty bad.
Tough one to digest there, boys. We had our chances. We can't say we didn't have those. And I'm sitting here the day after the loss and I'm thinking to myself, have we just turned into the Melbourne Football Club? But no, I don't think we have. It's a bit of an overreaction from me. No, but in all seriousness, I think we'll be absolutely fine. Chuck Howe back in a couple of weeks' time against Brisbane, put Frampton back in next week. Dugowie comes back eventually, you'd think. What sort of shape he's in, not sure. Houston back against Brisbane. The positives are there. Like, I do sound negative, but... yeah, I think once we get these players back, we'll start to look like a well-oiled machine, and then chuck Bobby Hill back into the equation and we're a completely different look. I'm not sure what happens with Tom Mitchell and Ned Long. I'm sitting here with the 2023 Grand Final DVD on my shelf, and I look at that and I think to myself, Tom Mitchell would be good in the Grand Final, wouldn't he? But, geez, it's too early to start talking about Grand Finals, though, isn't it? Anyway, I think we'll be right. No reason to overreact to that. Freo were too good. We move on.
Various points
some
made
good
there.
points there,
Still
yeah.
unclear if it is indeed Trent Rivers from the Melbourne Football Club, Jack. That was
Just doing some research here to see if I can figure out if
Very
he
good from you.
as a kid.
I was recording the debrief early before you guys came in. God, they're a depressing bunch, mate. We just got to be thankful about where we are in life, listening to that.
Yeah, which is where Ian, again, coming back to Ian's comment, I think that's really an important takeaway from today's pod.
So we can't live in the ifs, buts, maybes, whens. We just have to live in what happens and deal with it then. But if we're sitting here after the Adelaide game, having not won a game, and mind you, we play Richmond in there, Brisbane at home, and Hawthorn, who Brisbane and Hawthorn we both towed up earlier on the year by close to 10 goals each.
Very different conversation.
Different conversation? Or are we still having...
Of course we are.
It's okay.
Of course we are. No. Very different conversation. I think that's...
Very different, yeah.
What about his Long and Mitchell comments? Did you catch that? What did you think?
Mitchell was rested, right?
Yes.
Off 2 weeks. I'm just hopeful that rest is because they didn't want to load him too much ahead of a really tough stint. Yeah, I don't know what to make of it, Nico. I thought Ned Long really did throw his weight around. He's probably just not as clean as Titch when it comes to hitting a target. He literally looks for 3 blokes to jump on top of him and then release, and sometimes it doesn't quite come off.
Oh, yeah, I reckon it was an interesting one, that Mitchell call, because talking sort of in amongst mates yesterday in the crowd, it felt like we dropped him after that Gold Coast game, so it'd be interesting to know the real language around it, whether he was actually rested, as Marcus said, for the big block coming up. But I thought Ned Long was pretty good yesterday. We'll get to our votes a bit later, but I thought that was probably after a quiet few weeks after bursting onto the scene this season. He really took his opportunity in the absence, unlike a McStay, in the absence of a memory. In the absence of Tom Mitchell, Ned Long really took the opportunity and probably has a conversation again, like, how does Mitchell get back into this side? Like, do we, with the Geordie potentially coming back later in the year, do we actually need him? I don't know.
We are running way behind time, so I'm going to have to rush through. But I did want to play Irvin, who's quickly becoming one of our favourites, so I'll finish with him.
First things first, I need to apologize to you guys for any background noise you might hear during this little recording, because I am currently on my way to work. It's 5:30 in the morning, and generally I try to stay as level-headed as possible, no matter what the result is, win, lose, or draw, but unfortunately this week I'm going to have to give a bit of a Tourette. I'm pretty disappointed in Darcy Moore, and probably not for the reason that you'd think. Now, yeah, he did concede 6 goals, and yes, he did concede the match-losing intercept mark, but what I really, really didn't like was him dropping his knees into his opponent at the end there. Now, come on, Darcy. You're the skipper of this magnificent football club. You've been nothing but class through your whole career, and generally you've done a fantastic job of applying Craig McRae's philosophy of winning behaviors, but that was not a winning behavior at all. That was acting like a loser. And, you know, it's okay to get your ass kicked on a footy field every now and then. You're allowed to have bad games, but don't compound it by being a loser. Now, as for the game itself, it is what it is. We lost. We're going to be fine. 17 is still coming. Go Pies.
Interesting take. Because it's I don't know. I look at that, Nico, and I don't see that to have any particular malice in it. I don't think from Darce. Like, I don't think that was toys out the cot stuff and perhaps venting some of his frustrations of the day. But we all see things differently, and clearly that's been seen in a different light, Marcus.
Game was cooked by that point, so I didn't mind it. But no, I'm joking. It's not what you want to see on a footy field. But yeah, look, I'll be tempted not to read too much into it, given less than 1% of the time Darcy Moore is behaving in that way. Whenever I see an opposition player do that, I'm like, come on, mate. But at the end of the day, he's had 4 or 5 kicked on him, and then he's just watched the game die in front of his very direct opponent. So fair call, just probably wouldn't be reading into it that much, Nico.
Yep, interesting perspective. That's what we love about the SpeakPie. We get
diversity.
Absolutely. So thank you to everyone that has sent them in. We really do appreciate it. Probably played more than time allowed for, but it was so wonderful to get all those different perspectives.
Big thanks to Josie once again.
Your favourite, is it?
Oh, that was straight to the.
It's pretty fucking
good.
good, wasn't it?
Votes very quickly. 3, 2, 1s.
1 to DC, 2 to Bo McCreary, and 3 to Nick.
Yep.
Yeah, I gave 1 to Ned Long. Just as I said before, I thought that was probably his best game. For a little bit, probably for about a month. 2 to Bo, 3 to Nick.
Yeah, Bo 1, DC 2, Nick Dacos 3 were my votes for the weekend. I think I'm going to hold off Lionel for guess the crowd. I know that's a bit harsh, but the fact is that we've probably already recorded an hour, and I want to give him a proper amount of time to chat. He was only 6 people off the crowd yesterday. 62 odd thousand he was. I don't know the exact figure he had.
So when we run a pod in the off week between the last game of the season and the first final.
So it will either be that pod, or if we get someone in the next 4 or 5 weeks that's been on already, then Lionel's the man.
Yeah.
So shout out to him. We will get to you at some point.
Creating options for you, Lionel.
We just want to give him more time than rush through something properly.
You call him get on a bit of midday madness type operations to go. Just might be for a few weeks.
So in that case, what we will do is we'll skip through to the VFL report before we do wrap. And fortunately for the VFL boys and the VFLW girls, which we'll get to in a sec as well, both Collingwood teams managed to get wins on the weekend, and the Pies are looking very good for a return to VFL finals, which was very nice to see. We've got the job done against the Cats. Marcus.
Oh, stuff me. Just keep moving.
All right, beautiful. No problems at all. Serge.
On the clock, mate.
After a 2-point win against the Suns, Collingwood took on the 14th placed Cats for another night game at Whitten Oval. Rowan Steele returned to the side after a 2-game stint in the AFL. Pie started well in slippery conditions, applying good pressure and winning centre clearances through Steen, Gray and Dimitia. The quick ball movement of Collingwood through to Corridor provided Collingwood forwards with plenty of opportunities. Harry Marnie kicked Collingwood's first goal. Minutes later, with some quick hands, Pies scored their second as well through Rowan Steele. Ash Johnson got on the board to kick the last goal of the quarter from a good tackle. The defence was also well led by Sam Glover, and Collingwood led by 16 points at quarter time. In the second term, the Cats started to get on top in the midfield. Collingwood's disposal efficiency dropped, and they found it difficult to hit targets up forward. They had enough of the ball, but were turning it over in their forward 50. The Cats transitioned turnovers to score 5 goals in the second term, and Collingwood were down by 10 points at the main break. After the halftime break, Collingwood rallied, started to open the game up with the defence very solid through the likes of Sievers and Ben DeBolfo, along with Glover and Parker rebounding defensive 50 entries. Steen was a highlight, as was the Marnie brothers, who ran and pressured the opposition by creating turnovers. We surged forward on numerous occasions and we kicked 5 goals ourselves in the third quarter, keeping the Cats to 1 goal to take a 14-point lead into the final change. Collingwood continued to apply pressure. The game flowed from one end to the other. Both teams failed to capitalise on their opportunities. Collingwood's defence continued to intercept and rebound Geelong's forward thrusts. They managed to reduce the lead to 9 points, did Geelong, before Rowan Steele kicked his 4th goal in time on to effectively steal the game. Ended up going on to win by 15 points. Another solid win against good opposition. Pies were solid all over the ground. So we continue our winning ways in the VFL, which is wonderful to see. Good to see Rowan still get on the board with 4 goals as well. For our producer, Dan, Ilru Smith did not play. He had a foot injury, so no rough comments from him. We've got to chat about that off air. That was pretty funny. But Marcus, good to see the VFL boys continuing on their merry way.
Indeed, Nico. We play Frangois down your way.
Franga.
Really? What day is that?
Jacob, got Saturday night fixture. Kinetic Stadium, Frankston.
See you down there. That'll be me all over.
The Dolphins down
Frankston Dolphins. Yeah, great little stadium there by the water there, Nico. So we'll definitely be venturing down there. Just on, I think you already mentioned it, Steen. So good to see young player into the AFL team and then straight out, but going back to the VFL and seemingly dominating. So big shout out for him.
20 disposals, 21 hitouts, 8 clearances, 4 marks and 6 tackles for Oscar Steen.
I honestly reckon he stands between Coxie getting a contract next year or not. He's close to being ready.
Any chance he plays this week?
I don't think so. I think we've got...
Sorry, I said Steen, not Steele. I meant
Rowan Steele.
Rowan Steele, who went down.
Yep.
Sorry, I got the
well,
names
both,
but Steen as well. Big boys, the stocks are, they're right there.
16 disposals, 4 goals, a mark and a tackle for Rowan Steele. He was also very good. VFLW girls continued on their winning ways. Also defeated Geelong, who are lowly on the bottom of the ladder. Kept them to 2 goalless quarters and kicked 9 goals 2 to 3 goals 3 at Deakin University to win by 35 points. So another great victory for the Pies girls. They are second on the ladder in the VFLW, 2 points clear of Sandringham. Now, there's no game this week in the VFLW, and then they've got one more round to conclude the season. They take on Williamstown on the 2nd of August, 10:05 DSV Stadium. That's in a couple of weeks. Williamstown, they need to win to keep their spot in the top 6 alive. Collingwood have sewn their spot up, but they'll be looking to get top 2. So great stuff there from the VFLW girls, who look like they'll be returning to finals.
And just a last note on the VFL side, sitting in 5th position. So going pretty well across all programs at the moment. We love that.
Yes, time for the AFL men to get involved. We'll have a preview of the Richmond game a little bit later on in the week. But that's going to do it for what was, a pretty serious episode, gents, that one.
It was a little bit, but we'll be right, Nico. Tigers this week, who actually kind of a scary prospect. I can't believe I'm saying that after having a massive...
They're up and about, 2 straight wins.
Last week, and at the moment, we probably looked at it as a little bit gettable, but I'm sure if we go back to our system and go back with a bit more personnel this Sunday, we'll be absolutely fine.
All right, well, thank you, gents.
Thank you.
Always good.
And until next week, I've been Nicholas Sacco. You've been listening to or watching the Pies Nation podcast, where the pies are hot and the drinks are cold. Our show wouldn't be possible in 2025 without the ongoing support of the North Texas Devils. They're led by a great Collingwood man in Peter Wood. And just like the Pies have been here, the North Texas Devils have been thriving over in the US, just coming off a Central Regional Championship. And now they're looking to go all the way in the Nationals in Arizona later this year. The Devils are still looking to recruit new and established players for the season, so if any of our listeners or viewers are heading to the States over the next couple of months, are keen to get their Aussie rules fixed, the North Texas Devils are the team for you. Contact details can be found in our description, no matter how you consume our podcast, or you can head to ntxdevils.com to learn more. So thanks again to the Devils for sponsoring the Pies Nation podcast in 2025.